Okay, so today we're looking at Keela's new communications tool. We are off to quite a start this year. So welcome to Care Labs, as I mentioned. This is the first one of the year. For those of you who haven't been to a Care Labs webinar before, there are webinars that are run by the customer care team, not the marketing team, not to be confused with marketing's Key Labs. Care Labs are just for Keela users. So we take the same concept that the marketing team does with Key Labs. We look at sort of best practices, tips and tricks, things like that, but we put it within the context of the Keela system. And it's run by the customer care team. So we sort of have the you all in mind when we're writing it. They're every month. They're usually towards the end of the month because I advertise them at the start of the month. So in our customer newsletter, which is sent out on the first Thursday of every month. So keep an eye out for that. Another thing. So the way that we're basing them, the way that we decide on the topics is every week the customer care team meets up and we chat about all the questions that we've received, whether it's via email or if you're a premium care subscriber via phone call, training sessions, or live chat. And we sort of have a meeting, we talk about common patterns and things that are coming up. So Nicole might say, oh, I think I'm seeing this. Maybe we could look at some best practices for creating donation forms or something like that. So that's one way we decide on the topics. Another way, which is what we're doing today, is if there's a big announcement or if there is a change that's introduced into the system, we'll always do a training video. I'll always include it in the newsletter and we'll do an article and an announcement in Keela. But if it's something really big, we'll also do a Care Labs webinar on it as well. So it's sort of like covering all bases for your learning style. But of course, we only know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. So if you see a pattern in your own day to day, or if your team member is in the breakout room and complaining about something at Keela that they don't understand, remember back to this moment and think, aha, I'm going to send this through to the customer care team as a potential idea for a webinar. And you can do that via the survey at the end, or when I send through the recording with the copy of the slides from today, I'll also include a link for our community page where you can go and type in your suggestions there as well. So I want this year to be filled with suggestions as they come up. All right, so what are we looking at today? That's what we're here for. So first, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes running through the change itself so that you know the wheres and the whys of what's changed to give you a little bit of context. Then we're going to jump straight into the new communications tool and the three new elements to do with it. So we've got email marketing, direct marketing, donation summaries. Those are the three takeaways you're going to have today. And as always, we'll leave lots and lots of time at the end for the Q&A and potentially 15 minutes or so of your time back in your day to go and grab a coffee or a cup of tea, depending on how many questions we have. So look forward to that. Okay, let's get started. But before we get stuck into the new, I want to take a moment to say goodbye to the old. So on January 5th, 2022, this year, after only being back in the office for 2 days, the product team launched the new communications tool in the Keela system. Now, in the unlikely event that everybody in this webinar logged into Keela for the very first time on or after this date, what I'm about to say may not make much sense. Bear with me though. But for those Keela users, the power users who've been with us for a long time, since 2021 and beyond, you'll know what I mean when I say it's time to say goodbye to the word eBlast. eBlast was a very fancy, very exciting name that we came up with for the marketing emails that you can create, design, and send all to your contacts from Keela. And look, I loved the name. I thought it was fun. I thought it was exciting. It was fun to say. And there were a lot of puns because there were things like blast off, e-blast out of the water. Like I had a lot of material to work with for my terrible jokes, but we did get a lot of feedback that it wasn't very intuitive. If you're logging into Keela for the first time and you see the word e-blast, you're not automatically going to think, oh, email marketing. Folks said, look, as soon as I click on the button, I can understand what it is, but straight away it's not very intuitive, and that's not a best practice for a tech company, is it? So that's number one for the change. And number two is that it was quite constrictive. So it only allowed for emailing communications in that section. And we want to expand that. We want to be able to grow the types of communications that you can send from Keela. So it was a little bit limiting. So we've renamed the eBlast section in Keela as communications. And for starters, it's way more intuitive, but also it allows us to expand the kinds of communications that we can produce in Keela. And you didn't hear it from me. This is absolutely off the record. You're not allowed to tell the product team I said this, but there is going to be a bunch of new enhancements made to the communications tool over the next year. This is sort of the bedrock. Product team were like, okay, first weekend, we've got to make sure that we can get this change in so that we can iterate on it throughout the year. But you didn't hear it from me. So what is this new communications tool? What's it all about? If you've had a chance to click on the new communications tool in the sidebar, you'll see that most of the tabs are exactly the same. It's not a huge, remarkable change. We've got email marketing up here. This is what this has replaced eBlast, so a lot more intuitive. And then we have this direct mail tab, which is completely new. That's a new tool. Everything else, pretty much the same. So let's start with email marketing, and then we'll go through donation summaries, and then we'll finish up on direct mail. And how are we doing for time so far? I'm only 12 minutes in. Well, you're definitely going to get time back in your day. I love that. Okay, let's start with email marketing first. So here I am in the Keela system. I've clicked on the communications tool in the sidebar, and I'm in the email marketing tab. Beautiful. So we've made some slight changes to the email marketing tool over the last 6 months. So while the tool still works exactly the same as eBlast did, there are a couple of little tweaks. So I thought what I might do is a quick refresher, just in case you haven't had a chance to look at those tweaks that we've done over the last 6 months. I don't know. Well, just bear with me. You might learn something, and if not, you'll be very, very good at creating email marketing later on today. So we're in the email marketing tab, and let me set the scene for you. Let's say, picture this. It is January. It is the start of the year, and I'm wanting to send out a beautiful email to everybody who donated in 2021, everyone who donated last year. I want it to have information on the impact that we had. So maybe a summary of all the things we were able to achieve last year. But I also want it to be specific to that donor as well. I want to show them their donations that they gave in 2021 so that they can see our impact and see exactly where they fit in with that impact. I think that's probably the ultimate scenario for donation summaries, is giving folks, the conceptual view of their overarching impact at your organization and how that fits into your overarching impact for the world. That's the scene. Action. So I come into here, I click create email marketing, and this is all very, very much the same. We start with giving it a name. So I'm going to call this 2022 Welcome Back Donors. We've got category here. I'm not sure if lots of people are using this, but what it does is it allows you to sort of give an internal label to your emails. So for example, this one, it's probably stewardship. I'm building on that relationship with my donors. I mean, arguably it could be fundraising because maybe I have a donation button at the end, but it's up to you what you choose. And then later on, if you choose this filters button over here, if you've got a bunch of different emails in the list, you can filter them by these categories. So pro tip there. Next is the assignee. That's whoever should be responsible for this email. It's going to default to me. I'll keep it there. I'm not doing any fundraising campaign or any sort of event associated with this email, so I'm going to keep that blank, but we'll go ahead and we'll save. Okay, here we are. We're on the contents page. Here's where you adjust the settings of your email marketing. Now, the one thing I want to talk about is this to field here, because this is probably one of the most major changes that we've had over the last couple of months that you may have missed. So the to field, if I click on add recipients, it allows me to choose the list of contacts that are going to receive this email. And there are 3 ways that you can choose your recipients. First is segment. You can choose to send your email to all the contacts in a contact segment. So this option was always available. You can create a segment and then you can select it from this drop-down list here. Nothing out of the ordinary, or is there? Did you know that while you can still select your segment from this drop-down list, you can also create a segment directly from this drop-down list? That's something new we created. I am so grateful for this. I cannot tell you how many times I would get to this part of the email marketing tool or eBlast back in the day, and I would realize I've forgotten to create my segment. I'd have to get out of it, go all the way back, create the segment, and a million things would pop up in that time. And if I wasn't distracted, I'd come hopefully back here and finish it. So the product team has heard our plight and has introduced this. Thank you very much for your patience. So here's how we do it. So you click on the drop-down list and it shows you the last 10 most recent segments. And then of course you can search. So I'm going to search for donors in 2021. And because it's not an option, there's no segment in my account with this name, it comes up with this create new option here. And if I click that, it takes me to the create segment box. I click next and I can just choose my filters in here. So thank you, product team, and thanks everyone for your feedback on that. We got it, we got there. So for here, because I'm sending an email to all of my donors in 2021, probably going to just sort by date received. So I'm just going to say all contacts who have one donation where the date received is relatively last year. Really simple. And there we go. I could just send it off now and it would be perfect. So that's the change to segments. Next, you might see a new little option here. We received a lot of feedback from folks saying, please, 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 let us be able to send emails or e-blasts, in this case, email marketing, directly to one or more tags. So this was another change that we got lots of requests for, and we've implemented it over the last, I think it was 3 months ago. Don't quote me on that though. So from here, I can just choose my tags from this drop-down list. Now, something I want to reiterate, whenever you click on a drop-down list in Keeler, you get the 10 most recent elements. So for example, I'm looking at tags now, I'm only getting the most recent tags. Sometimes people panic when they click on this and they don't see their tag there. And that's just because we only show 10 because some people have 200 tags. If we showed the whole list, it would be very overwhelming. So just search. If you don't see it straight away, search. So maybe I search donor and I select that from the drop-down list there. Of course, we've still got the plain old option of sending it to all contacts, but a new thing I want to point out with this, and to be honest, it's this option I'm about to say is available in segments and tags, but I want to show you this exclude contacts option here. So sometimes when you're about to send an email to all of your contacts, you might think, I'm in that list. I don't want to receive this email. I've spent all day building this email. I never want to look at it again. So maybe you might come in here and just remove yourself from the list. Or let's say our board member, Mary Poppins, has told me she doesn't want to receive a copy of this email. Of course, if it's someone like a board member who says, I don't want to receive any of your emails, I probably wouldn't use this option. I'd go into their profile and I would unsubscribe them, just so Keeler will always remove them from any list and you don't have to manually remember to remove them. This is more of just a temporary once-off kind of thing, not a permanent solution. If it's a permanent, use the subscription tool, save yourself some worry there. Now, speaking of email subscription statuses, if you have a few contacts or have quite a few contacts in your Keeler account who have not physically opted in, then it's possible that you have that they have an unknown email subscription status. So every contact in your Keeler account will default to having their subscription status unknown unless they physically opt in or you tell Keeler this person's opted in by including it when you're importing the contacts or updating their profile. So we have everyone as being unknown unless you tell us they're opted in or you tell us they're opted out. Or of course, they can opt in themselves at any point by filling in a Keeler subscription form, or they can opt out at any point by unsubscribing. Those are the 3 layers. And if you have a lot of contacts with an unknown subscription status, then you probably want to keep this ticked. Tell Keeler it's okay to send emails to folks with an unknown subscription status. It's up to you though. So we'll go ahead and we'll save it. And now you can see a list of recipients. So you can see who it is, but also a summary of who it is. So it's folks who are opted in always and folks with an unknown email subscription status, and it comes up here. And of course, we've excluded Mary Poppins down here. Okay, the next thing I want to show everyone is hands down the most requested feature we've ever had in Keeler. So I have never in my life ever had a feature more requested than this. And I've been with Keeler for 3.5 years. So that's saying something, right? I'm very excited for this. So I click on add content. I go in here and I've actually got a template I've already created. And I'm going to send this to all of my donors. So I previously came in and I created this beautiful little email that says, you know, we saved 567 puppies by putting them up for adoption last year. And here's a summary of your generosity. You are a true puppy hero. So it sort of creates the impact, sets the scene. And from here, I'm wanting to include a donation summary. This is where I would slide it into that email. Okay, you might have noticed donation summary over here has been added as a content block. So it works exactly the same. You just click and drag it over. So what I'm going to do is add a row first. Now I would recommend using the 1 column row because you don't want it to be squished into these columns on the side. I would say 1 would probably be best practice. So 1 column, 1 row, and then I'll click and drag it over here. Now, first thing we need to do is get a date in here. So I'm just going to go, yes, I know, I'm going to put a date, I promise. I'm just going to go January to January because it's going to be the easiest for me. So let's go January 1st, and January 1st. Okay, beautiful. So I'm going to be displaying all donations from the 1st of January to the 1st of January 2022 in here. One thing to point out though is that this information is going to pull from a contact's profile. So whenever you see it in a test environment, whether it's here in this preview section here, or if you send a test email to yourself, it's not going to be pulling from a live environment. So you're only ever going to be seeing a donation summary preview. So don't be alarmed if you look and you're like, who made, this says January 2022 on it. That's not the dates that I've selected or anything like that. It's just a preview. So from here, I can choose what information is going to be displayed. So I can include in-kind donations if I like. I'm probably just going to keep it as money donations. And because of that, I'm going to remove gift type because I'm only showing money donations. So I don't need that. The total amount is just this total amount down here. It can be really handy because it means if they're taking this to their tax accountant, this kind of record, they don't need to do the math, but it is more information. So if you're wanting a really streamlined version, you can remove that. I'm going to keep it. And you know, it's really funny. We used to have on all of our receipts campaign and impact area information. And we used to get feedback all the time saying, I want to remove this. I don't want this information to be available on my receipts. So when we did 2.0, we did the newest version of Keeler, we removed it. And now we get so many requests saying, I want campaign and impact area on my receipts. And the lesson there is that everyone is completely different. Everyone uses Keeler in a new and unique way. And we're starting to understand that truly. So we now realize you can have the options or you can untick the options. Not for everything. We don't want Keeler to be too complex, too cluttered, but we are introducing those abilities whenever we can. So if you want, you can have the campaign and the impact area in here. I might keep impact area because in this test account, we've got impact areas for things like cause areas and stuff like that. Folks can sort of see where their contributions have gone towards. And maybe I could put information about each impact area in the summary of the email as well if I wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save and continue. This is ready to go. So that's the changes for email marketing. in a sort of covered. The next thing I want to talk to you about, the last thing, is direct mail. So let's jump into communications, head to the direct mail tab. So this is a completely new tool. It's very similar to sort of the email marketing tool and the receipting tool that we have in Keeler at the moment. So the good news is you don't need to learn too much. I think this will pretty much cover it today and you'll be a pro. So this tool allows you to create letters that can be mailed out. So sometimes, well, in the past, I think we moved away from letters. I know I did. I just dreaded mail coming into my mailbox because it was always bad news or bills or junk mail. But now, with the boom of everything being online and email marketing and things like that, I'm finding it's the opposite. I only get lovely stuff in the mail, and all of the horrible stuff now comes into my email inbox. And so we're seeing a swing back to sort of a preference for sending out letters, especially, it gives you that nice, beautiful kind of personal touch. It can be a really powerful tool. So that was what has inspired this. So I'm going to use a similar scenario to the one I did for email marketing. Let's pretend I sent out emails to most of my donors in 2021, but let's say I have a few major donors that I'm wanting to send a personal letter to. I'm going to spend the extra time because they have given the extra amounts and I want to make sure they feel really cared for and connected to my organization. So let's go direct mail. We'll call it the same thing as before. Let's go stewardship. We'll go ahead and save. Now from here, the recipients work in exactly the same way. You have the 3 different choices here. And what this does is it's going to choose the contacts that letters are produced for. So it's important to make sure that everyone you need a letter produced for is included in here. So I have a tag that I manage my major donors with. Major donor tag. I don't need to exclude anyone. We'll go ahead and we'll save it. So when I click generate and generate these letters, a letter will be generated for every contact in the major donor tag. All right, next up, let's edit the content. So you'll recognize the receipt tool kind of interface here. It should look very familiar. So what I'm going to do is, if you want, you can customize the logo and the header information in this letter. I'm going to keep it as is. I think it looks okay. But what I will do is paste just the message I had in the email marketing tool. I think it was great. Same thing. Don't want to go overboard. But of course, you can use all these editing tools to change the font and the colors, and you can have in smart codes as well. Now, in terms of how the letter is displayed, you have the choice of having a date or no date, so I can turn this off. But I'm going to keep it. I think it's nice. You can choose to display the address. So this is a great option if you have envelopes with windows in them and you're sending out hundreds of letters. I would definitely advise that. But if you are going to handwrite your addresses, if you've only got 5, maybe you want to handwrite the addresses on the envelope to make it look really pretty, or maybe you want to produce mailing labels in Microsoft, then you can definitely turn this off if you like. But I'm going to keep it on. I'm going to pop these into windowed envelopes because this address here will fit into that little window. Next, I have the choice to display a signature. If I want, I can upload a signature, but to be honest, written signatures on letters reminds me of tax letters and it gives me the heebie-jeebies. So I'm probably not going to do that. I might just put my name in here. Let's pop me down there. Now, one thing to note is that if you are making changes and you don't see these changes displayed in the left, click save here and you'll get some information through to there. Sometimes it doesn't populate all the way through if you've got a lot of text. We just do previews at the end. I'll show you where you preview the text, where you preview everything at the end, so don't be alarmed. But things like Elsie Coffee will come through. Okay, next, yes, display donation summaries. These are available in letters as well. Similar process, we select the date. Let's say I'm just going to do December. Let's do December to January. I don't want to include in-kind donations. I don't want to include the type. I do want to include donate total amount. I don't need description, and I do want impact area. So that's looking good. Beautiful. Let's give it a save, and let's save and continue. Now, from here, I have the option to preview the letter. And this is what I meant when I said hold up. You'll see what I mean in a second. When previewing the letter, as I said with the email marketing, the donation summary, the smart codes, all of that pulls from a contact's profile. So you can send yourself a copy of it and you can view it that way if you want. But it's a little different with mailing. You're not going to generate a PDF, print it out, and then look at it if you want a preview of it. So we've introduced this little option here where you can say, okay, I want to view what this letter will look like from Homer Simpson's perspective. And then I can view that here. So it'll preview in here. I think that I've created a problem by copying and pasting my information, by cheating and copying and pasting it from a different area of Keela. I think that might have caused a little problem with my message coming through. So that might be generating that issue. Apologies for that. Pretend it was beautiful. And then I'd not tried to cheat my way out of it. Okay, so next up, when everything's ready, everything's looking beautiful, I've checked my letter, it looks lovely, I go ahead and I generate it. And this just takes a couple of minutes. So you're going to have the processing status up here and your letters are being generated down here. I've got a screenshot of what it looks like afterwards so that you don't have to sit with me and wait for it to be generated. But basically, the status will change to created. You'll get a beautiful little timestamp in here so you know exactly when you generated it or created it. And you'll be able to click on this button down here and download the letters. So the letters will be downloaded to your computer or PC as a PDF, and then you'll be able to just print them from there using your own printing settings, whatever you prefer. So that's that. Oh, one thing I do want to show you is if we go back to direct mail. So while the status is processing, when I've created them, it comes up as generated. But once I click that donate button here, the download button here, sorry, once I click download letters, the status will change to downloaded. So you'll be able to see at a glance if you or a team member has downloaded them in case you forget, because I know you've got a million things on your plate and it's possible. Okay. I told you we would have a little bit of time at the end. That's the 3 things that I wanted to cover today. Everything's pretty much in there. I saw lots of chats coming through, so I think we might have a lot of questions. So I will just, let me bring that up. Where are you? Here. I know that I can see it somewhere. Chat. Here we go. Sorry. Okay. I'm just going to work my way from the bottom. So I've got Q&A in here. I'll start with the Q&A and then I'll work my way up from the chat. Okay. Question 1. Oh, I have to go earlier. Is there any chance I can access this recording later? Yes, there will be a recording. Everyone will get it either today or tomorrow. How can you recognize soft credit donations? So they're considered to be that the thing for those is in Keela, actually I'll show you. So when you log a soft credit on someone's profile, let's go in here. I'll create a new donation. Let's say at 1,000 and it was online and I go associations. It's in the association section and I can add a soft credit here. Say I'll add Susie Carmichael. Let's log it without a payment or receipt. And Susie comes up in here. Then if I go to Susie's profile, the transaction, it won't be displayed here because I don't want it to be included in the totals. So Susie's profile is connected to the fundraiser, but I don't want Susie's donation totals to be affected by this amount. It technically, although Susie was responsible for it, Aubrey Graham was 100% the person who gave the funds. So we do that. So my recommendation for acknowledging soft credit donations would be to look at those contacts who are responsible for it. And then I don't think you're going to have too many, but I would probably say send them out just a personal letter. So you could use the direct marketing tool to manually insert that information. But if you have heaps, if you've got a lot of soft credit donations that come through frequently, you know, if you have more than 10, let us know in the product portal that if that's something that you're wanting to do. Maybe we could create a direct mail template that thanks soft credit donations, because I know we're going to be introducing templates for direct mail in the future. That could be an option. So either put it in the product portal or use my workaround if you like. Okay, that was the Q&A. Now let me look in the chat box. Kim Elliott would like an explanation of what a soft credit is. So a soft credit is when, say, we have two contacts in Keeler. One is a donor who was given a donation, and the other is a team member who was responsible for that donation, or maybe someone in the community who was responsible for facilitating that donation. And we just want to give them a boon. We want to say, hey, Aubrey Graham gave this donation, but Susie really drove that home, Susie Pickles. So let's make sure that that gets acknowledged. Okay, next question. Is there a limit to the number of letters you can create? No limit. You can create as many as you like. What if you want labels for direct mail instead? So if you want labels, you can use what's called a mail merge. So I think Microsoft is the best option for that, where you export full names and addresses from Keeler into a CSV file, and then you just use Microsoft Word to create those automatically. Oh, we have an article about that in our knowledge base as well. Does the timestamp matter? If I want all donations for 2021, do I need to put January 1st, 1 a.m. to December 31st? Oh, the timestamp. So you don't have, there's no timestamp for when you're selecting the dates. You're just choosing dates. So it could be from January 1st to December 31st. There's no time. It goes up until midnight automatically. So don't worry about timestamps for when you're choosing the dates for donation summaries. Would we be able to remove header so letters be printed on letterhead? Yeah, absolutely. So what you would do for that is you would just not have a header image, just keep it blank. All right, next question. Oh, it looks like, can you send to households or use the acknowledge as? I'm sorry, Christine, I'm not quite sure what you mean with that. Can you type at the bottom of the chat, or maybe pop it in the Q&A actually, if that's okay, the Q&A box, not the chat, because the chat's quite full and I don't want to miss your question. But when you say, can you send to households or use the acknowledge as, can you let me know what you mean in the Q&A, provide some more details, and I'll answer that one live. All right, Eric has submitted an idea for need to be able to add the return address so I can use 2 window envelopes. Brilliant idea. Pop that in our product portal. All right. Lots of folks saying they love the changes. Yay. Okay, I think I'm up to date. So I'm going to jump into the Q&A box. So any questions from now on, please pop them in the Q&A box. Keep everything nice and organized. Okay, we've got a comment about voting for something in a product portal. Brilliant. Please do that. Like, all these ideas came from the product portal, so definitely worth it. Oh, Christine, thank you very much. I appreciate you providing more details. Can we use the households and use acknowledge as instead of contact name when using direct mail? So at the moment, all our smart codes are first name. So they're pulled from a contact's profile, not from a household level. So you'll need to use first name because they pull specifically from a contact. But having households and maybe even companies as well, organizations, would be a really good next level. This is just the first rendition of it. So definitely pop that in the product portal. We'll be, looking at this later on the year, the next level. Question from Eric. How does the direct mail donation summary page, assuming that paginate? I'm going to have to Google that word. Oh, paginate is the number of pages. Assuming the donation summary will force multiple pages. It depends. If they've got a long page, it's A4, so it'll just go to the next page. It will split. So we'll find a place that makes sense for it to split, and then just move it on to the next A4 page. So we won't move the whole thing to the next page. It'll split because if they've got 3 pages, it'll never split. So that's how that works. Thank you also for teaching me a new word, paginate. I like that. I'm an avid Scrabble player, so that might come in handy. How can we ID contacts who want DM but not emails? So again, I would use, this is from Janae, I would use email subscription history for any kind of thing like this. So if I go, well, I'm in Aubrey's profile right now. If I go down to the admin section here, this is where the solicitation status and email subscription status is kept. So, like I said, it can be opted out, unknown, or opted in. And at the moment, Aubrey is opted out. So for someone who only wants to receive direct mail and never wants to receive emails, I would set their email subscription status as opted out, and I would put their solicitation status as yes. So that means they're okay to be solicited, but it cannot be via email. And then you can filter your contacts by folks who have solicitation equals yes, email subscription status equals opted out, and maybe you could make a tag, or actually no, I would make a segment out of that so that it updates itself automatically. So let me show you what I mean. I would go to contacts and create a segment, and I would call it my snail mailers, folks who need to receive mailings all the time. And I would filter it, my contacts, by email subscription status contains opted out, and then solicitation status contains yes. So this is going to create a list. I don't have any at the moment because I didn't save that on Aubrey's profile, but it's going to create a dynamic list of folks who match these filters. And then whenever a new contact matches the filters, they're automatically going to be added to this segment. So you can sort of rest assured that it's going to keep itself updated. And that's what I would use that for. All right, next. Oh, Diane. So Diane has said, I love some of the ideas that are coming up. Is there a Keeler user group? If there is, I'll definitely be signing up. So we're actually hoping to build one of those this year. So Diane, you might be number one on that list. I'll put, I'm sort of tagging people in who were expressing interest. So I will definitely tag you. If anyone else wants to join up with that, just let me know. We'll sort of do a reach out where we say, volunteer through the customer newsletter as well. So there'll be a form for you to sign up for that later on. Love it, Diane. Join us. Corinne, who's going to Scotland. Can you remove the header area on direct mail? Oh, I've already done this one. In order to print on an organization letterhead. So let me show you what I mean when I say yes, you can. So if we jump back into communications and go to direct mail, let's go to this draft one here. So I would just make sure that I didn't have a header here. So if I turn this on, it goes automatically pulls from my receipt settings, and I've got no header here in my receipt settings. So that is managed in receipts and emails. Let's go, oh no, it's for my campaign. Let's go in here, edit. Let's remove image, save. And then it defaults back to that. So I would just make sure that whatever settings you want are reflected in your receipts and email settings, and that you're not managing two. And as long as it's good here, you're good to go. How do you recommend recognizing donations given to organizations like Canada Helps? So my recommendation for this, wherever possible, replace your Canada Helps donation form with a Keeler donation form. It's going to save you time and it's going to save you money. Our payment processes are cheaper than Canada Helps. And what it means is that all donations that are logged through your Keeler donation form are automatically put into Keeler and they're tracked. Because if you don't put them in here, we won't have that information and you won't be able to include it in your donation summary. Of course, Canada Helps is awesome and it's a great database. So I think it's definitely appropriate to have a Canada Helps page if you want, just in case folks go there to donate. And then, but majority of your donation should come through a Keeler donation form. And that way, you'll only have a few that you need to bring over from Canada Helps, just the ones that have sort of fallen through where folks have gone directly to Canada Helps. And it sucks because you'll have that higher processing fee, but it's still, like I said, a great way to advertise and get out. If that's the case, if you are getting one or two donations through Canada Helps, you can either manually log them in Keeler or you can import them all in an Excel spreadsheet at once if you're kind of doing it once a month. And that way it's going to ensure that your contacts profiles are up to date. because the data needs to be in here for it to be included in those donation summaries. So that's my recommendation for that. Keel a donation form wherever you can, and if not, make sure you're manually transferring that data from Canada Helps. Another one, oh, Janae. We have contacts who are happy to receive direct mails and email newsletters, but do not want to be asked for money. So they would be no solicitation opted into emails, but there needs to be a third option. So solicitation in this case is the original term. Solicitation originally means do not solicit anything, whether it's support, whether it's reading, whether it's anything like that. It's not specific to fundraising. For that case, I would just use either a custom field or a tag. So what I would do is one of our best practice recommendations that I talked about in one of our email marketing webinars last year, is that when folks subscribe to your organization, you have a custom field for how they'd like to be contacted. So let me see if I've got one in here in my test account ready to go. It should be. I used this account when I did the webinar. Preferences, newsletter preferences, mailing campaigns. Bear with me. Oh, here we go. So I have on this account custom fields that I've created and you can use as many custom fields as you like in your Keeler account. You create them in your organization settings in the custom fields tab here, and you can track anything you want. So we have one here for solicitation preference, which is like another level. So you've got the automatic yes and the automatic no. That's all managed for email preferences and solicitation. But we've also got type of content as one that we've added. And it's multiple choice. So folks can opt in to choose events only or news only or impact only. And I would add one for fundraising. And what you can do is you can go to someone's profile. So let's go to Tommy Pickles, and I can find that custom field down the bottom here. And I could say Tommy wants impact news and events, but not fundraising. Alternatively, if you find most people do want to receive everything and that there's only a few people who don't, you might create a custom field that's the opposite. So instead of tracking what people do want to receive, track what people don't want to receive, because it might be less work. So think about that. Think about your own preferences. So maybe here, instead of type of content, I might add a custom field and do not send this content. We'll make it multiple choice. And then this time I might say fundraising or stewardship. I'm trying to think of other ones. You're testing my brain, everyone. Stewardship. What's another one? Events. There we go. We'll save that. And so an even bigger layer you can add to this, just to demonstrate how interconnected Keeler is that maybe when you're sending out communications and you're choosing the category, that's what you're going to use as your types. So maybe you're sending out a fundraising, you save it when you go to choose the recipients, you'll create a segment where that custom field is no. So you're just like, okay, we'll call it fundraiser. And when I'm selecting a tag, I'll just say a segment. So let's say it's everybody who has subscribed minus no fundraiser. So it's all my subscribers minus the people who say no to fundraising. So I'll create that. And in here, I would say email subscription status equals opted in or unknown. But that custom field I created, if I search for custom field in here, the one that I created, it was called do not send this content, and I'll say does not contain fundraising. So I want to make sure that I'm including all those contacts who have an email subscription of opted in or unknown, but their custom field that says do not send this content does not contain fundraising. And that's going to ensure that I'm removing those people if you want to have really specific ones. Otherwise, that's only applicable if you've got people who are saying, I don't want to receive this type of content. But I love it when people do that, when they give me the options to sort of subscribe to specific items and things like that. I find it really useful. Okay, next. Erica, is there a way to send direct mail addressed to either specific people in the household, for example, dear Mrs. and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, instead of only sending it to Mrs. Smith? So this one, it's up to you how you manage it. So firstly, we had someone who wanted to be able to send direct mail to households or send it collectively to the primary contact. And that's definitely something I think that we should put in the product portal. But there's also a sort of a little workaround that I recommend. So it just depends on the scenario. If we have, let's say, Homer Simpson, let's go to Homer Simpson's profile. There is a smart code for preferred name, this field here. And I find that most people don't actually use the preferred name field. If someone goes by a nickname, lots of people, like my dad, for example, my dad's name is Marty, but he goes by Macca or something like that. Australians are very much like this. You'll get, if you were born between the 50s and the 70s, you won't get referred to with your name. You'll get a nickname or a middle name. And if that's the case, often I find people just put whatever that nickname is in the first name field and don't use the preferred name field. And that means you've got this field here that you can use for any of your smart code preferences. So maybe I go in here and I put in the preferred name field, Mr. and Mrs. Simpson. Oh, I can't type, sorry. And then later on, when I'm creating a email and I'm using that smart code, I'll choose the preferred name smart code and it'll pull from there. So that scenario is good if A, you don't use the preferred name field, and B, you only have a couple of things you need to do. It's not an ongoing thing. If you're really using households all the time and you need more information rather than just the preferred name, or you only want to send it to the primary contact or something like that, then that is an enhancement we'll need to do. But in the meantime, you might be able to figure out a way to use this preferred name smart code here. And so that from Homer Simpson's profile, that would pull Mr. and Mrs. Simpson. So that's a trick, handy trick, but it may not be sustainable if you're doing a lot, in which case that's an enhancement we'd need to make in Keeler. I just realized I look a little bit like Princess Leia today with my buns and my white. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. All right, next question. We have Rona, is direct mail a campaign type? I think that maybe Nicole may have answered this, but if not, sorry if I'm repeating myself. It can be. It's up to you. Your campaign types or whatever you choose for them, unless you mean the category, in which case, no. Direct mail has its own categories. It definitely has a place in the campaign world, but in terms of best practices, I would sort of say your campaign would be an event campaign or a fundraiser campaign or a donor stewardship campaign, and that direct mail would be a tool you would use in the campaign. It's sort of the more variety you have in outreaches, the better, I think. That's my personal preference, though. You do you, is what I think. But yes, I hope that answered it. So many questions. I was not expecting this. I'm loving it. Sorry, I just need some water. Roanna is up next. Can you put a limit on the number of pages for direct mail? So when it generates, we don't get a situation where there is only a small bit of text at the top of the last page. I wish that was how PDFs worked. It would be amazing, but it's just not possible. It's not something that we can code in because we use PDFs in Adobe. We can't really edit how it comes through at the end. It's just how Adobe does it. So it's not something we can do. I'm sorry. Henny, hello, Henny. Oh, Henny, you've been around at Keeler nearly as long as I have. Is it possible that when a new donor signs up online as a monthly donor, that automatically the monthly donor tag is added to the donor profile page? It is possible, but it requires 2 donation forms. Let me show you how. This is actually my best practice recommendation, so do with it what you will. So let's say I have a website and I have 2 donation forms, and I've seen lots of our customers do this and be very successful. So you're getting the inside scoop here. When I'm creating a form, I might create one for monthly donations and one for once-off donations, and have those two forms going. And the way that we do that is when you're creating the settings for your donation form, you can choose, here at the very top, what kind of donations you allow to be submitted through the form. So you can have one time or recurring, both, which is maybe what you've got, Henny, or you can have one time only or recurring only. If you have recurring only and someone fills in this form, then what you can do as well on top of that is in the settings, you can choose to auto tag contacts. So anyone who completes this form, you can do this for any form, whether it's a donation form or a subscription form or a membership form, you can set it up so that anyone who completes it is going to be automatically tagged. So I would put monthly donor in here. Hopefully I've got one. I don't have a tag for it produced already. Imagine I did, and it was here. So that's what I would recommend there. And then on your website, you could have please donate, and you could have a once-off donation form here button and a monthly donation form button here. And a really cool thing about having a donation form that's just for monthly donations is that you can use it to run what we call recurring donor campaigns, where you identify using Keela's very clever smart tools in the contact insight page. If I go back to Tommy Pickles here, you can see here in the contacts insight section, powered by Kit, all this kind of information in here. So things like their engagement stage, donor readiness, Tommy Pickles is likely to donate. So what I might do is filter all my contacts by folks who have a donor readiness of yes, and I might send them all an email saying, please consider donating on a monthly basis. And that donation form would only be monthly. And that's going to be a really successful way to try and convert folks from once-off donations every once in a while into recurring. So that's a pretty cool best practice. That's a fantastic idea for a webinar. That might be my next webinar. We've got a couple of new updates coming out, so I'll have to cover those, but mid-year, I'm thinking I might do that as a webinar. Great idea, Henny. Well, next question. And also everyone feel free to log off if you have to. I'm just going to keep this party going until all questions are answered. So we're all in it together. Samantha, what do you recommend doing for contacts of a foundation who want to receive communications but do not have the donation through their name? I.e. Jane Smith, who works at Smith Family Foundation, wants to receive emails from us, but when we create the filter for major donors, she is excluded from the list because according to Keela, she does not make donations. That's a really good point. So the beautiful thing about creating segments based on filters is that you can get Keela to find contacts for you based on information. And then when that information is updated, the lists update automatically. But unless you find a way to tell Keela the information you want it to look for, it's not psychic, it's not going to know. Keela can only find information that's there. So if you're ever stuck and you're like, I want Keela to know something, but there's no way for it to know it right now, you can either use a tag or a custom field to track that information. So maybe you could put Jane Smith as being connected to the Smith Family Foundation, and then you could filter out contacts who are connected to the Smith Family Foundation. Or you could put Jane with a tag, maybe primary contact of foundation. And so you send out, that's your marketing list, is all the folks who are tagged as being a primary contact of a family, of the Smith Family Foundation. But I do know that there is a missing feature in Keela that has been requested a lot, and it's the ability to filter contacts by their household and company, or to sort of say, if I filter by Smith Family Foundation, it shows me all the contacts who are in it. Now, let me start again. It's very complex, which is why it's not in Keela at the moment. Picture this. I'm wanting to see a list of all contacts who work at Keela and other organizations like Keela. So I want to filter my contacts by company filters. I want to filter out using the organization filters, but I want to see individuals. And at the moment, when you're filtering out by company filters, you get companies. But the next level would be to view whoever belongs to the results, the contacts of the household or the contacts of the organization. And that's something we definitely have in our product portal. So that's a really sort of I've given you kind of a minimalist answer, tag or custom field if ever you need to track anything in Keeler that isn't already tracked. But also we do have enhancements on our radar that might make this easy in the future. Okay, next one is Timmy. So if I select the Keeler address that is an option, where does that reply go to? So replies go to lots of different areas in Keeler. It depends on what your settings are. So what I recommend doing, if ever you're unsure, is going to our knowledge base, and it is incredible. I'm going to take this moment to say our knowledge base is the best in the industry. It's the best in the world. It's been a love project. So if you jump in here and search for replies, let me go up here. Where do replies to email marketing go? And you can read through all the different options here because it sort of depends. It depends on what you select in the reply to option, but it also depends on who the assignee or the contact is in other scenarios. So what I might do is just pop this in the chat so that you can read it and go through each scenario. And then if you have any questions about it, please reach out to us at support and we can talk about those specific scenarios. All right, back to Caitlin. Is there a way to go back and edit the content of the direct mail letter after you've generated them into PDFs and then regenerate the letter? Not possible. So once it has been generated, it's there. It's been produced. The PDF has been produced. So it's sort of like, to be able to do that, we would need the ability to go into Adobe within Keeler and edit an Adobe PDF. It's just not possible. We can't get Adobe editing functions into Keeler. Sorry, I accidentally refreshed. That was alarming. There's a ghost in my house. But what you can do if it's a quick small change, you might be able to edit the PDF in Adobe itself if you've got Adobe Pro, or I would recommend just regenerating it. I think it's going to be easier. But remember that you can regenerate just for the one contact if you don't want to regenerate the whole thing. If you think, I messed up the address for one, then just go produce the same letter, but for just that one contact. You can put them in a tag or something like that if you like. Okay, Henny again, you're most welcome for this great help. And Christine says thank you as well. Oh, I think we did it. I think that's it. I cleared the queue. Let me see. I just want to make sure everything's been answered live. Okay, I think we are good, everyone. Thank you for sticking with me. You'll all get a copy of this recording either today or tomorrow. It has been my absolute pleasure. Look forward to another year of just everything. It's going to be incredible. Have a great day, everybody. Sorry I didn't give you any time back, but I hope it was worth it because of the questions.